All right, so here we are on the job site today. This past week, we've been working hard on trying to get to some details on rotted materials, and one of the pieces we had to work on was one of the historic windows at the rear of the property above the kitchen roof line. The frame system had completely rotted out, requiring us to take the whole system out and take it to our shop and rebuild it. So what we have here today is a brand new frame, but we used the old historic sashes, kept them, and they'll be restored when the painters come do the paint job. But what's interesting about these type windows, and most people see these over time, are that they're weight sashed windows, meaning they have a weight that allows this window to drop up and down. And what that does is it's a balance system that's used by weights. These historic cast iron weights are placed in the window wells beside the windows, and it takes the design of the window dictates the weight of the device that actually holds the window up or down. In a double hung window like this, there's 4 weights in a window casing that would actually, the 2 on the back side would actually pull the window up, holding that window in place all the time up. And if you wanted to open the upper sash, you'd pull it down and let air come in from the top to let the hot air in a high room like this pass out, and that's prior to air conditioning. The lower sash is just the opposite. The weights allow you to lift it easily. So a heavy window like this, I can't really easily lift with one hand, but if I had the weights attached to it, then the pulleys at the top would allow me to pull and the window would go up. So the weights are doing that themselves and not me. So a typical homeowner would be able to lift and lower their sashes. You know, even a small child would be able to do it in this case. So the historic windows are interesting. These are 1/1 windows, meaning that there's one piece of glass above another piece of glass. So in a house in 1910, this era, it was common to see the larger panes of glass come into play. Now on this house with a Queen Anne style, there are other windows you'll notice in other parts of the videos that are broken into smaller panes, and that's the architectural design of that era. But predominantly the large pane glasses are what came into vogue during that period, and that was because of the second industrial revolution we spoke about earlier on the lath and plaster. But the reality is that glass manufacturing became easier, and they were able to produce larger sheets of glass, which dictated the use of larger windows. And it's kind of interesting that you know, it's about economics. The people that could afford the larger windows did so because they could, and most houses had smaller pieces of glass in a smaller frame system. So historic windows are typically putty glazed in, where the hand mixed putty's put on the outside to seal it from the weather, and the glass leans against the interior jamb. So we often have to replace the sashes and the frames, and commonly have to replace the sash ropes, and often source out and try to find sash weights as well. In addition to the other parts of the window story, it's interesting that because we're in a National Landmark District and this is considered a historic contributing structure, we're not able just to toss these windows out and buy new windows. And most homeowners, you know, when they buy a home, they want to understand their energy efficiency, and they may get colder than they want to get cold, and they can't keep the cooling in. So they try to replace the windows, and you just can't do that, or should not do that in a preservation program. So these windows are what we call single strength glass. It's a single pane. There's no divider in there. There's no insulation in there as modern windows do. And the other thing about these historic windows, the way they built these windows, the frames are attached to the outside trim. And what that means is that when they build a window, it comes with a trim on it. And a carpenter in this case would have probably assembled these on site and then provided them to the builder. But the house got framed, the house got sheathing put on it, in this case diagonal pine boards, and then the windows were placed before the siding was put on. So it's kind of like today's modern windows, but there's no nail flange, there's no way to attach this window. So that's what allows these weight pockets to be open, because there's nothing in the way, and the window is actually being held in by the outside trim. So it doesn't meet any of the wind load standards of today. It doesn't meet the energy efficiencies of today, but that's what comes with historic preservation. You're trying to restore and preserve the historic nature of the structure and how it was built. So that's the important piece of it. Some of the other stuff we've been able to achieve this past week is, and you'll see it in the photographs, we were able to repoint the 2 other chimneys. Now earlier we had completed the rear low chimney in the kitchen, and then most recently we went up and was able to do the 2 upper large chimneys. So that entailed complete grinding out all the mortar joints down to at least a 1/2 inch in depth, doing some cleaning of the brick, and then remixing a soft mix mortar and putting the brick pointing back together, and then cleaning the chimney up and painting it with a brick sealer and a white top coat so that the roofer can continue doing their job. And then we'll work our way off what we call the hat. We'll get off the roof and work our way down. So this week we hope to achieve the cupola cap install, and we hope to finish the roof up on the turret cupola, and then work our way to the soffits and crown. You probably saw some earlier shots of the work being done at the rear soffits. Once that, we kind of work our way down so we can get to ground level, and then to get the painters on the exterior working, and then we'll continue inside. Now, we're currently still doing work on the interior, and some of that is continue to disassemble pieces and parts of the framing, stuff that don't need to be here, so we can lay out the new floor plan. So all that's been done as far as design work goes, and 80 to 90% of the frame removal has been completed. And we're now working on getting the electrical plans in place so we can start lining up both our plumber and our electrician to come in and start doing their magic. So that will happen fairly quick if we get them lined up, but the framings, the very little bit of framing needs to happen, and that will happen probably next week. And then you'll see this thing kind of taking off on its own, and we'll start focusing on some detailed stuff like the fireplaces, the mantles, things like that just take time as the painters go through and start doing their work. And then the last thing obviously is floor repair and trim, and then the painters come in and do the paint, and the floor guy finishes the floor. So a lot of steps. We're not in a real hurry, but we're trying to do it right the first time.